will everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. There was a little confusion on the start time today. The agenda, which is what the notice that went to the public on Monday and Tuesday has 10 o'clock this morning. There was an original notice that went out saying 9 o'clock, so we apologize for any confusion. I felt since the agenda is more official, we went with the 10 o'clock time frame this morning. Next item is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today?
Move to amend the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Doug, how do you want to amend the agenda?
Well, has it been determined that we can, has it been agreed that we can amend the agenda?
Yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Under appointments, please add Dave Allen as the chair of the Marine Activities Committee.
And I have two additional appointments that Frank Daly asked that we add to the agenda. Gary Miller, Aquatics, first term, and Bob Molden, Golf, first term. Are there any other changes to the agenda? All right. All in favor of the changes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The next items on the agenda are the approval of the minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of July 21st, 2021. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Yep.
Any discussion? Are there any changes? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next is the special meeting minutes from July 30th, 2021. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes to those minutes? Not seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
And the next is approval of the minutes for July 30th, 2021, the closed session meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all in favor of the approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And the next set, the special meeting minutes for September 7th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
And the minutes from September 7th, 2021 closed session meeting. I have a motion to approve.
Aye.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. For the president's remarks, I just wanted to note that notice went out yesterday that in the court case of Farr versus OPA, the judge ordered that Ocean Pines count the votes received from the 2021 election. The judge also enjoined Ocean Pines from moving forward with the redo election that we had voted on at the last meeting. The judge also set a discovery cutoff date of November 1st and a hearing date for November 15th, and allegedly to make a decision on the case at that point. If any public comments today. The board will not be addressing any of the issues in that case. But I did want to give the community an update as to where the case was. As a result, the Elections Committee announced yesterday that the vote count will take place on Wednesday morning starting at 10 a.m. at the Clubhouse. And of course, it's, as always, it's open to the public to view the vote count. What will happen after that, we are not clear at this point. The judge did not give us any direction regarding next steps. If you're anticipating that we will seat a board, new board members, and certify the election, I don't know that that's going to happen. We don't know yet. Okay, so that's it for the president's remarks. The next item is the community survey update. Colette?
Yes, I just wanted to let everybody know that as of, I guess it was last Sunday was the last update I got. There were 1,352 completed surveys, and we were at 495 part-time residents completing it, which at that time was 5 people short of our goal. And we'd like to see more 30 to 40-year-olds and 40 to 50-year-old owners complete the survey. But otherwise, we're in good shape with respect to our goals. And the goals were not lofty goals, so we certainly don't want to just rest on our laurels. We're still hoping to get as many people to complete that survey as possible. Thank you.
Okay, General Manager's report, John.
Thank you, Larry. Turn the page. Turn a couple pages. Okay. Okay, so just start off with, before I get into everything, I just want to talk about, we have the NFL ticket, the Clubhouse Grill has been doing excellent. The food is great. We have the NFL ticket, and the place has been packed. So I'm just trying to put everything in there, but it is there. Please go out and enjoy. Next slide. Okay, so here I just try to put all the initiatives, what we've worked on, where we've moved the ball forward from the last time that I've spoken to everybody, or where I see somewhere out there in the media or even the calls I get, questions on the many items that we're working on. So I will touch on them today. I also have Linda Martin today. She's manager. She's going to talk to you about the DMA light study as well as the bulkheads. Okay, turn the page. All right, so it's good to start off with pictures. This one's a big one for me. If anybody's been down there, the stairs were in for about a year and a half, but with COVID and everything, we couldn't get the railings. But with that said, we already see great success. And Judy, who's there on the left, the manager of the grill, who's doing a tremendous job, is telling me that opens up everything. They're able to serve all the golfers or everybody else out there, whether it's brunch, burgers, beers, or whatever, and everybody's having a good time. There's really a great patio there. Turn the page. All right, so North Star. Couple changes with North Stars. We did have somebody resign on the IT side. We did hire another director of IT who will be starting shortly. In the meantime, Steve Phillips has rolled up his sleeves and he's taken that on for us. What I'm seeing there is this. I'm getting exactly what I've been looking for a year and a half, in the sense that we have a list. We have a list of all open items, which we've been doing. We have dates, we have follow-ups, and what we're showing here, Steve and myself, is that the ball is definitely moving forward with North Star. I updated everybody months ago that I spoke to them, and they've put more resource, and the tickets are getting completed. And certainly if you talk to any of my direct reports, they will tell you, yes, we're moving forward with that. So I'm very pleased with that. I'm not getting the efficiencies that I would expect, something that I never heard here before, but we are definitely moving forward with that. Turn the page. Proposed pickleball court. I have received a lot of questions on this, as well as I believe the last board meeting. So we are waiting for the permits. We're about as close as can be. There was a couple questions that came back, whether it was the county or the state, and all legit questions. What I tried to post On this slide is the few open items that are left. One was a typo. The other one was a 68 square foot of mitigation that might be required that we're working on, and Vista's doing that for us. So I'm being told that we are close, but we've done everything possible. So with that, I hope to be able to come forward with the next board meeting with the proposed pickleball court that was approved in the budget. Turn the page. Okay, so we have the clubhouse, right? And the clubhouse has a community room. It's not golf, it's a community room that's shared by everybody. We do meetings in there. Some of the feedback I've received is that it's open. It's open to the lobby, and that was by design. We wanted the light, we wanted the view, but I'm being told as far as when there's meetings or banquets or whatever, we really need some type of doors or something. So right now, I'm just putting this out there. This is what I'm looking at. This is what everybody's telling me, but I'm certainly still looking, is to kind of put doors into that room similar to the doors at the front, which will still let light in, but yet it will enclose that room and hopefully helps with the sound. So that's the ticket for this one. I'm not complete yet. I do have a designer coming in, I think this week, that I want to look at with her and try to find the best possible way. All righty, turn the page. Some pictures again. So we did do work. Public Works did some badly needed drainage as well as cleanup on Manklin Creek Road. Where I tried to show here on the left was we did have a lot of pine trees there that have probably been about 10, 12 years old, if not longer. They were diseased. They were falling over. We had concerns that they would take out the fence that was there and cause more problems. We do have a lot of fiber optics and everything that go through there that we have concerns on. So we cleaned it up, the decision that was made, and we did talk with the park management and everything, and everybody was okay. We've cleaned it up. So if anybody passes through there, and I believe all the gardeners, and I was a gardener at one time, a lot more wind and a lot more breeze and a lot more sun going into the garden. So I think that was successful, and we fixed the drainage there because it was just one big puddle and another improvement. Turn the page. All right, so last time I heard too, somebody said something about Bainbridge Pond. So, obviously the pond, everything, that whole project there, that part is completed. We had a lot of volunteers there, and they did the plantings. I think it was last week. I tried to get as many pictures. You can see on the bottom left the plantings. This is all for filtration. It really came out nice. Great job by everybody. Turn the page. Okay, so with this, let me just start it off with the DMA light study. So several years ago, we finally got that DMA study, I guess, off the ground. It had been out there for a while. I believe it was successful. It's a very valuable tool. It's a good exercise. Back then when I was chair of the BNF committee, I said in several years we'll do a light study, right? And Doug Green and his company would do they have the proprietary tool to do this. We're not going to buy something like that. We don't have the manpower to do it. So we did work with them. They did do an oversight. Linda's going to talk to you more about that. But obviously with all the changes we made with the construction and the renovations and all that, I thought it was a good time to do it. So it's a good tool. I had it as a key objective. It's been completed. We gave it to BNF. They came back with their questions. Linda, I'm going to let Linda do all the rest on that when she goes. But Linda is the lead on that. Turn the page. All right, so with that said, perfect segue. There's Linda. Linda's to my right. I just want to tell you a little bit about Linda. She returned to Ocean Pines in October 2020 as office manager. Previously, she was with Ocean Pines 2006-17 as the CPI Public Works Office Coordinator. I did work here several years ago. Linda had left. Art Carmine, as well as many others, told me I had to get Linda back. So I was successful. She's here. And Linda also oversees the info at oceanpines.org for me. She has taken it to the level that I expected it. She's very coachable. I'm glad to have her on a team. So with that, let me hand off to Linda. She's got some good stuff. She'll probably be updating the association over the next month on this project. Linda?
Okay, progress to date. The DMA study was returned to us in September. BNF has received the copies and have provided, at their October 6th meeting, they provided questions to us this week, and we are now reviewing the questions. The questions will be reviewed and be addressed at the working session on Wednesday, November 10th at 9 a.m. at the Country Club. CPI violations. CPI department's been pretty busy the last couple months, especially with summer. Right now, we have a total year-to-date of 478 violations initiated, with 410 closed. And that's seen on the screen, it's just for the month of September. But we do appreciate everyone that has reported violations to us, because we do follow up on everything that comes through. Bulkheads.
I'll go back to
Golf course bulkheads, the work began on August 16th, was completed on October 8th. Additional side will be placed by Public Works staff, and the total cost was $200,035. Emergency bulkhead replacement is ongoing at 12 and 14 Goldeneye, and it should be completed this week. And after that, we will be doing the bulkheads at Pintail Drive, finishing up Pintail Drive from last year, and also doing Crab Cay Court.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Those bulkheads are pretty much like general bulkheads that just happen to be near the golf course, and they were badly needed. Okay, so it's finance time. One thing I do recommend, and I would ask of this board or the next board, is having the board meetings in the middle of the month. It's kind of tough for our finance department as well as the entire team. We do want to come forward with the most current financials, but it's kind of like right there where he's almost done. So I'm coming in with a flash every month with the prior month's actuals, because I want to make sure that I present that. So I would hope, but whatever it is, we'll certainly support it, that the board move their meetings, because I don't think you set them up yet for the rest of the year, towards the end of the month, or at least after the 13th workday, so I can come in with the most up-to-date financials, because otherwise I'm in here with the prior month, and they get issued sometimes the night before. So with that said, let's go. Let me talk about August, and I will also talk about September flash today. But our flash seems to be right on. Could you just go back one page? All right, so for the month of August, I mean, they're kind of redundant, but every month I say this kind of gives you a highlight with the revenues and the expenses on where we are favorable or unfavorable to budget. Please keep in mind that when I do update and I report on this per our scrolls, I am to report on favorability to budget. All right, so with that, you can see our revenues for the month came in favorable, as well as our expenses. And you can see the total number. And this is for August, so I believe it was like around 155. I can't see from here, but turn the page. So, I did give you a flash last month, and we were right on with it because we were almost done. So 1,122,000 favorable to budget at the end of August. You can see that basically it's 800. It's across the board, revenues and expenses, and I'll get into the detail by amenity or department on the next slide. But the revenues, I talked last time, and I talked about organic growth. We see organic growth, new growth developed by this team in place, the directors in place, for all our amenities, whether it's food and beverage, but it's golf, big time golf. It's racket sports, moving nicely, as well as aquatics. And expenses, this team, since I've been here, we look at reallocation. We scrub every account, and I got to tell you, they do a great job. Turn the page. All right, so where are we? So this is the month where again, this is August. I'll get it September at the end of this. But favorability, yacht club, right? We've talked about that. The banquets coming in big time. The revenue, aquatics, as I mentioned several times, organic growth in revenue, expense reduction. And yes, okay, we did have some that we didn't have the instructors, so our revenue kind of came down in swim classes or whatever, but also our expenses came down. I had similar situations with rec and parks. Public Works, 36,000. Some of that is timing, if not most of it, on getting stuff done with COVID and everything else going on. And we have had a challenge hiring people, because what we're paying for minimum wage and what I have in this in this budget and what it takes to hire somebody versus Dunkin' Donuts is $4 or $5 an hour. But I am working on that. I'm working with the department heads in HR, and I'm trying to make sure I stay within my budget, our budget, so that I'm not breaking any rules here, so that we can hire people. But it's certainly a headwind, one that will be addressed when we do the budget, the new budget. Police favorability, we had some open position there, golf ops and maintenance. Favorability, we're seeing good revenue. We're seeing price per rounds going up. Rounds going up, the place is packed. New capital, I got a phone call from some guy in the desert, wanted to know what it was. And we bought a shed. It wasn't for golf, because it was a golf. No, it's for food and beverage. They need a place because they're expanding. The kitchen there is, it's not exactly what the size that we need for the amount of business that we're doing there, but that's for another day. And then they're just netting out everything. Now, the one thing I got to say on this was the marinas. The marinas, which is always there and has put much money in the coffers over the years, in the 10 years that I've been doing this. I said last month that it was timing. We've had some situations with small craft advisory. I even pay attention to it now. But when I show you the September numbers, obviously those boats still needed to be filled up, and our harbor master came through on that. So 155 for August, all favorable across the board, organic growth, operating on all cylinders. I love saying that. Turn the page. All right, so there's your year-to-date, the 1,000,001, yacht club, again, banquets, everything. I don't know what else to say. Look at those golf numbers. Aquatics numbers, this is all, I'm not going to, I went through it all last month, but I've said this since I've come in here. And especially with golfs, it takes a certain amount of money to run a golf course. If the board or anybody else is going to come in and cut that money, then you can't maintain the place, and then it's not playable, and nobody wants to play it. So if you cut $30,000 there 2 years in a row, you're probably going to lose $200,000 in revenue. You invest that $30,000 in there, and you're probably going to make $200,000. We've proved that. The grass is cut, everything's cut. And now look at the numbers compared to budget. That place will make money. And yes, I present on operational without depreciation. Give me a couple more years, or give us a couple more years, and we'll take care of that. The depreciation number that's out there for another day, I'll talk about that. But that number, golf supports a lot of things besides golf with that number, whether it was the clubhouse, whether it was drainage, but that's for another day. Aquatics. Again, what can I tell you? There was expense reduction. We're seeing revenue growth. Public works, general maintenance. Again, a lot of that is timing. The beach club favorability, police, clubhouse grill. I mean, it's the same. It's going to be the same thing even when I talk about September. All cylinders, 1,122,000. Turn the page and let's talk about September flash. 170, is that 176,000 favorable? So one thing I got to tell you, these are all certified by our controller who prepares these financials. Every one of my department heads, our department heads, sign off on the numbers. Everybody reviews them. Everybody has there's a process that they have to go through. We forecast, and it's just amazing what we found over the years. So again, it's all the same. I'm not going to go through it, but look at the marinas number. Obviously, those boats needed gas, and tremendous to that team down there. But again, across the board, the beach club, interesting. And again, what I say about expense reduction and expense review, that certainly was a savings there. Rec and parks, it's across the board. I don't know what else to say. Turn the page. All right, so the 176 on top of the 11, you can get an idea. But please, I do have to hedge on this. What do I have? Another 6-7 months. Those are the months that we really don't generate revenue, which is typical. We do have expenses coming in, and I do caution that those numbers will not exactly be where they are, and I do have timing in there. But probably next month I will give you a forecast on where I see us at the end of the year, but I pretty much know right now. That's it. Remember, we managed through COVID. We still are. We had situations at aquatics. We're working with our team to try to minimize so that we don't lose an entire team somewhere. If I do lose an entire team, obviously that probably would affect an amenity. But we are doing cross-training. Well, that will come into play now, as well as I'm looking at the management organization chart where in case something happens, I can switch people around, and hopefully we can keep the amenities open. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, John. Doug, your treasurer's report?
All right, I'm at a little bit of a loss because I can't see the slides, but I'm assuming that the
It's
slide you see right now, cash and short-term investments. So it should show that the latter rate of return is 0.85%, which has been consistent over the past several months, and it's unchanged from last month. The total cash in hand that the association has is 16.8 million as compared to 16.5 last month. Obviously, it represents some collections that have been done on assessments. And as you can see, every month we track how that 16.8 million is broken down. You'll see 9.5 in CDRs and 7.3 million in other financial vehicles. Next slide, please. It should show a bar graph of just, we've been tracking the assessment collections throughout the fiscal year. And as of the end of September, we were up to 9.23 million. So it just shows how we have progressed rather rapidly. So, move to the next slide, please. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you should see two red graphs, bar graphs on the left, and two green bar graphs on the right. And as I've been tracking from month to month, the red graphs are 2020. So our total assessment back in 2020 was 9.1 million. And through September, we had collected 8.59 million, or 94.2% of the assessment total. You move over to the right, the green bars are assessments this year were 9.34 million. And through September, we've collected 9.23 million, or 98.7%. To put it in more literal terms, it's approximately $114,000 worth of uncollected assessments. The 98% is actually very much in line with what we've done over the past several years. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had done some research some time ago and found that the assessment collection nationwide in HOAs was upwards of like 95.6%. So we're ahead of the national average and have been for the past several years. So kudos to those that are paying their assessments, and I think we're in pretty good shape there. Next slide, please. I believe the slide is the unaudited reserves for August. Not too much of a change from last month. I will point your interest to the third line down where it says casino fund and grant income. There was last month that under the drainage category was 0.3. Right now, obviously, it's 0.4. So, John, I'm assuming that is representative of the monies that were distributed by the county in regard to the Bainbridge grant. So,
Yes.
the balance as of the end of August is 7.8 million. Last month it was 8 million, but obviously we've had some spending in the reserves, as you can see. We're still tracking well towards the end of the fiscal year, and as we said, we'll always continue to monitor that. Next slide, please. You should be looking at the reserve year-end unaudited. Not much has changed between last month and this month regarding this particular graph. The only thing to point out is that at the end of last month, we were projecting for an end of fiscal year estimate of 6.226 million, and it's been revised to 6.223 million. So that's where we project it's going to be. And as I say, every month we're looking at where we are in the reserves, what kind of expenses that we have planned, and we also have to take into account that if there's any kind of emergency spending out of the reserve fund, we'll certainly take that into consideration. But again, the focus is to make sure that we target that estimate for the end of fiscal year so we can carry our balances into the new fiscal year and plan accordingly. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Doug. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting that Frank Daly is away from Ocean Pines and has an excused absence from the meeting. And Doug is taking care of personal business across the bridge, and so he's joined us by phone. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to public comments. Please give your name and address.
Thank you. I apologize. My name is Grant Helvey. I live at 1443 Ocean Parkway here in Ocean Pines. I've been here 20 years. I want to compliment John Viola on the comprehensive report, as well as the treasurer. I was very pleased at how comprehensive these reports have been and how these things are being managed. One quick thing to get out of the way and then I have a second comment. But at the last meeting that I attended, I asked a question whether the board meetings should be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, because at the moment in that meeting they didn't seem to be. And that question wasn't answered for me. But since then, I have consulted the bylaws, and indeed, as you probably know, yes, they are to be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. And I hope that they continue under that method. The real thing that made me get out of the house this morning, come to this meeting, is a concern that I have about a plan that seems to be evolving, and it seems to be in the public perception that there is the public has bought in on the idea of spending $3.4 million to replace the golf course irrigation system, and in order to change the water supply for that system to use the effluent from the sewage treatment plant. I feel that the public perception, as it is in the papers, as in the press, is that the public has bought in on this and that it is a done deal, and it is going ahead with the approval. Actually, it said the board voted unanimously to send a letter of support. But I believe that there is not a public support for it to the extent that you would, at this point in the game, be sending a letter of support. I think, for example, we have 2 new board members now, so we don't know their position on it, so it's certainly no longer unanimous, at least to the public. We don't know. I sent the board a email on this subject, a rather comprehensive one, I thought, asking that more or less that you reserve your opinion until the community had an opportunity to learn more about it and buy in on it. And I expressed some serious concerns that I won't stand here and take your time to repeat. Each of you received, I presume, each of you received my email. Only one of you, actually 2 of you responded. Mr. Perrone responded briefly, that essentially he responded, and I don't want to, you can speak for yourself, Mr. Perrone, but I believe that your response to me was simply defending your authority as a board to continue this project without a referendum, even though it costs it's estimated to cost $3.4 million. So the other response that I received was from Mrs. Peck. Is it Peck? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was extreme. I was very, very pleased to receive that response for a few reasons. One, pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, and welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Okay. And it was extremely comprehensive. It seemed to address my concerns or answer my concerns, almost all of them. It didn't change my mind, but it was. It showed me that you have the ability to listen to the community and respond to their concerns in detail. I was very pleased to receive that, and I look forward to continuing to communicate with you or any other board member on this issue. I'll summarize by simply saying that I'm still opposed to the project, and it appears to me from press reports that it is heck bent for leather to happen. And I do not believe that you have properly, as a board, I do not believe that you have properly aired the matter in the public. I don't believe the public, many people in the public, if you go over to the farmer's market and say, what do you think about the affluent meeting? Many people don't even know what a fluent is, you know? And, but by the way, it is a nuisance. Affluent, as it's defined in the dictionary, is a, can't think of the word, but it's awful, okay? It's a nuisance to the environment. So I would urge the board, I want to talk about the cost for a moment. This board is clearly aware that there's a spending limit of $1 million without a referendum. I mean, that has been made aware to you by the court. And so I think to proceed to support this project, even though it's kind of a round the corner way of having it done, since the county would spend the money and then require it back through the water increase in water rates. I seriously question if the court would agree that you have the authority to press for this, to approve of this, even in concept, without the support of the community. So I would urge you to, one, gather a great deal more information about the effect of effluent on the golf course, the effect on public health, the long-term effect of it on the community, and the possible effect of its contamination of the canals and flowing right back into the same river that you're trying to keep it out of. So I would urge you to find a way to have a public meeting with a great deal more information and a great deal more exchange of information between the community and the board before you buy in as a group on the whole concept. And I think that I really question whether you have the authority to promote the project at the cost of $3.4 million without a referendum. I think that a referendum would probably be in order, even if it wasn't $3.4 million. I think you need to know how the community feels about the subject. So I'll just end in saying I'm very opposed to it as an individual, and I truly appreciate your service to our community as a board, and I appreciate you listening to my viewpoint. Thank you.
So let me just address just a couple of the issues for you, for the community. First off, there has already been 2 town hall meetings on this subject held by our general manager. So your comment that we are not getting the feedback from the community, I have to disagree with you. We've already had 2 town hall meetings. We intend to have further meetings. This process is in the early stages. And in regard to the $3.4 million, while you may have an opinion that requires us to hold a referendum, Ocean Pines will not be spending a dollar. And as a result, we don't believe that we need to have a referendum. We are going to the community for their feedback. We've done it twice already. We intend to do it going forward. As I said, this project is in its early stages. We haven't even seen a draft contract from the county. We have issues regarding easements, maintenance that have to be addressed. And I can assure you that our general manager and the board have all of those issues in mind. So Just wanted to make sure for the record that you're clear. We have had already 2 town hall meetings. If you chose not to attend or other people in the community chose not to attend, that's up to you. But I have to disagree with you saying that we have not gone to the community. We have, and we will again. And the $3.4 million spending issue, I have to disagree with you. We don't believe we need a referendum because Ocean Pines will not be spending any money on this project. Any further public comments?
Can I make one comment just for the record? Those affluent meetings are available on video, and it was also discussed at the last board meeting. So there is information out there, and we will have more town halls. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
And I just, and also, Sarah, if you want to stop by, or I can go through whatever we have and answer any questions during the week if you want.
Patty?
Good morning. My name is Patty Stevens. I'm the chair of the Ocean Pines Recreation and Parks Committee and also the co-chair of the Worcester County Bike and Pedestrian Coalition. And first, I wanted to echo Mr. Hill's comments to commend the board members for your service. I know the amount of, I can't even imagine the amount of time that you put in aside from meetings and also the flack that you take from the community. So I appreciate your commitment to our community and the hard decisions you have to make along with the general manager. I have the great pleasure of working closely with Debbie Donahue, the Recreation and Parks Director, as the Rec and Park Committee chair, and also I'm a very part-time swim instructor, and so I work closely with Kathleen Cook, and I would say the staff that I work personally with are amazing, and we're lucky in our community to have them. I don't have a particular ask for you today. I wanted to just briefly, in both the roles of Rec and Park and Worcester County Bike and Pedestrian Coalition, let you know that there's some really exciting and important work going on at the countywide level, in fact, at the Eastern Shore level, to improve the safety and accessibility of biking and walking for our communities. There's a lot of research, and I brought copies. I didn't bring enough. I'll leave those and ask if maybe Debbie could make a couple of extra copies that show that the health benefits, the economic benefits, and the community cohesion benefits of communities that have safe walking and biking are tremendous. They're demonstrated across the world. We, as a community that now, in a way that I just love, has much more intergenerational. We have many more young families here. I love when I rode my bike today. There are families out walking strollers. There are people on walkers walking their dog, and there are people on bikes, and there are people walking. And in many ways, Ocean Pines is a community that attracts people that have an active lifestyle and want that kind. But we could do more to make this even safer and better in our walkways, on the roadways, and working with Worcester County. I was very excited to see a recent citizen exchange with the new Director of Public Works in Worcester County, who made him aware of the lack of crosswalks at important walkways like Cathal Road and Manklin Creek, where if you drive that area as I do or ride it, there are quite elderly people and mothers in strollers that are getting their groceries at Food Lion and crossing Racetrack Road with bags of groceries and then walking back to their communities. It's treacherous. I'm a confident road rider, and it's treacherous. So tying this back to the county, we have been in contact with Mr. Young. He has appointed Leslie Roscoe, the county attorney, and Dallas Baker, the new public works director, to work with the coalition to come up with a countywide Greenway plan, which would show us which will put in the priorities of the comprehensive plan when roads are redeveloped, when neighborhoods are redeveloped, when the casino front is redeveloped, when Racetrack Road gets funding for improvements, that bike and pedestrian safety be considered. But part of that at the state level, and I participate as the governor's representative on the Maryland Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, is that our community has to show that this is a priority for us. And so within our community, as we do improvements along the roadways to give attention to crosswalks, to widening or making the shoulders safer, making sure there aren't pits and holes and drop-offs, And so I'd like to continue to update the board and ask for your input and thoughts. I've done some sketches on what it would take. This is a big vision, but to actually link our community with an off-road walkway from the north gate to the south gate that could continue along to Showell Elementary School. There are state grants available for safe routes to school. There are state grants available for off-road bikeways, but it would require Ocean Pines developing a plan for how we envision our community being a safer bike and walk community. And I believe it's in the interest of the whole community as people age to be able to walk and get around, and for recreation and for our residents. So I just wanted to make you aware. I include on this handout an update of what the Worcester County Bike and Pedestrian Coalition has done in its first year, which we formed and have met completely virtually during the whole of COVID. Our first in-person meeting was in May. And also what the benefits of bike-friendly communities are. And so I'd like to, through the Rec and Park Committee and through direct reports, keep you updated and ask for your input. And again, thank you for your commitment to our community.
Thanks, Patty. Further, anybody else have public comments? Sir?
Good morning, Tom Schwartz, 198 Ocean Parkway. I have a comment on action that was taken at the last regular meeting in reference to Triple Crown. And there was a question from the county as it related to the names of two particular roads, Belmont and Beaumont. And as a former dispatcher for the fire department 45, 50 years ago, and a firefighter and a fire captain, I thought about it when I went home. I said, that's no big deal. We're just going to keep it as is. This is what the board agreed to. And I thought about it when I got home, and that is very concerning, because I try to get information on the grid layout, not the name of the road layout, but how the 100 blocks are going to run. And normally it's an east, west, north, south, start at 1, go to, 1,000. And there literally could be, depending on how the road is laid out, a duplicate number for both streets, which could be confusing if somebody called in 129 Belmont and they meant 129 Beaumont without a descriptor such as the word court or trace or other name to differentiate for the dispatcher so they can get to the right address. And I would just ask, as a minor thing, just to kind of relook at that real quick and recommend to the county not to have similar ending road names. So if one's going to be a court, then the other one should be a muse, which is a racetrack term for the alley behind the paddocks. So you could have Belmont Muse and you could have Beaumont Court, just as a descriptor to help the fire and rescue and the law enforcement. And I thank you for your time on that matter. I don't know how you would put on a new business or look at an old business, but it was just an observation from the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think when we got the note from the county, I think there were descriptors as court or separating the two, even though some of the names may have been close. But I'll go back and take a look.
I appreciate it. I just couldn't get any information between the last meeting and this. I was going to go by the real estate place, but I couldn't get their information.
Correct. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any further public comments? Joe?
Good morning. Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. I think the board is very aware with recent events of the importance of our bylaws. Many times they're overlooked. We have a bylaws and resolutions committee working all the time. I brought this up at the last meeting, but the bylaws say that there should be an election of officers after the annual meeting. I look at the annual meeting as a date, and I believe the intent, it doesn't say after the election, it says after the annual meeting. The annual meeting, again, is a date, and I believe that the Board of Directors should hold an election of officers at this time. Should have been held some time ago, but, and it may be formality. You can reelect whoever you want. You can reelect the same officers. But I think it's a process that should be done. Now, with regard to election of officers, the bylaws do say that if that is not accomplished, if the organizational meeting is not accomplished, it does not impact the charter. So it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I think given all the recent events, you guys ought to be seriously considering what the right thing to do is. And I think the right thing to do is to hold an election of officers. Ancillary to that is the appointment of board members. And I believe the bylaws also stipulate in that case that the board members hold their position until the annual meeting. And again, I see that as a date. And we have Mr. Frank Brown. Thank you for your service, Mr. Brown. But I think that a case could be made that Mr. Brown was no longer a board member as of the date of the past annual meeting, and therefore any voting made might be immaterial. Not saying it's going to happen, but I think that's a possibility. An argument can be made. There's no exception that I saw anyway, maybe I didn't read it properly, that says if a member's not appointed, well, I just think it's important to consider those bylaws, and you could appoint Mr. Brown again. I mean, there's nothing to prevent that. But I think the bylaws themselves should be examined closely, and again, in the context that they're obviously important and they can cause us problems if they're not followed. So, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Any further public comments?
Sorry, I forgot one thing. This is in relation, this is as a citizen, a resident of 171 Nottingham, and a person who recreates in our community regularly, biking, pickleball, walking. The proposed controlled burn, which was to happen this week and I think was delayed, happened last year, caused tremendous discomfort and noxiousness to people who play at the playground. I take my grandson there. I go to the dog park. We play pickleball several times a week. That wood smoke lingered for weeks after that burn. And it also released, and it happened this week when they were moving the wood pile around to prepare for the burn, these little horrible black biting bugs. I have pictures of them. They're covered the whole court area of the recreation area. They're biting all of us. Other communities, I've moved here 2 years ago, but have lived in other neighborhoods, are no longer doing burning as a way of disposing of their wood waste. They have chippers and then make the mulch and the wood chips available to use in gardens and in pathways. But burning is generally not the way that communities are getting rid of wood waste. It's bad for the environment and it's bad for our breathing. And I'd like to ask the consideration of other ways to do it, if not for this one that's scheduled for this immediate time. For the future, obtaining a chipper would allow those wood chips to be used on walking trails, for example. In some communities, they make the wood chips available to the public for mulch for their gardens. But I sent an email to the general manager and board, and I know you have many other issues to deal with, but I just wanted to raise that. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
May I say something to that? I am asthmatic and I totally understand. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate it.
I think no further public comments. I'm going to close the floor to public comments. Unfinished business. We have 3 second readings, all 3 by Director Parks. Doug, you want to start with Resolution CO3?
Yeah, Larry, I move to have a second reading of Resolution CO3 and approval of the proposed changes. The purpose and effect for the governing document, the second reading is required in order to enact the proposed changes, and the background is in discussion with the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. They recommended that the proposed changes be made.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Second.
Discussion? Doug, you want to discuss the changes?
I don't have everything in front of me, but, per the first reading, there was some minor changes made to it. You guys should have gotten the, red, markup copy. There were some minor changes, with regard to C03. I don't have them in front of me, but, I know that, other than perhaps, the two new directors, the rest of you have that information available.
Yeah, my concern though is that we haven't discussed it publicly. I know at the first reading, we just sort of breezed through it and we've had an opportunity to review it. I think we should have that information discussed publicly. Doug? That is a reasonable request. If the board feels for this motion and for the next two, that due to the fact that perhaps there wasn't enough public discussion and probably more importantly that we have two new directors, I'm willing to withdraw the motions and re-present them at the November meeting, if that's kind of where we want to go with this issue. I think that may be the best way to go, Doug. We're only talking about one more month, and that way we can have a more in-depth discussion next month. So we currently have a motion to approve CO3. So you're going to withdraw that motion? And
for the record, I will withdraw the motion with the caveat that we provide information. I will certainly provide the background information. Actually, according to B01, Larry, you're supposed to provide that information, but we'll get it to the two new directors. And that with the intent that at the November meeting, we will have the open discussion and we will bring forth a motion to approve. I will bring these motions forward in the November meeting with the intent of discussing in more detail in public.
All right, and Josette, you need to, do you withdraw your second on the motion?
I withdraw my second on the motion.
All right, so the motion has been withdrawn. And Doug, you've withdrawn both the remaining two motions regarding resolution FO2 and FO3?
For parliamentary procedure, you have to bring it to the floor, and then I will officially withdraw.
All right, so do you want to read your motion regarding FO2?
All right, for the record, based on new information, I will withdraw the motion for a second reading of resolution F02.
And you have a motion pending for second reading of resolution FO3?
And for the record, based on information just discussed, I will officially withdraw my motion for a second reading of F03.
Okay, motions are withdrawn. New business, Colette?
So I have two motions relating to employee sick leave policies. And so the first motion is approval of a revision to the employee sick leave carryover policy, policy on sick and safe leave carryover, to provide a limit. The purpose and effect is to provide a limit of 240 hours to the year-to-year carryover of employee sick and safe leave for all employees. Employees who currently have accumulated more than 240 hours leave will retain what they have and will be allowed to accumulate up to 240 hours leave over their leave balance as of the date the policy goes into effect. And I guess maybe we ought to think about withdrawing this at this point. Do you, Amy, and
I've researched it. I'm
okay?
I'm up to date.
And what about you, Josette? Do you
I've
feel-
researched it. I'm
Okay.
up to date as well.
So is
So we
there
need a second.
a second to the motion?
I did have some point of
Is
information.
there a second to the motion?
I
second?
second the motion.
Discussion?
I was just wondering, is there an associated cost annually affiliated with this to the association to implement this?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I
An
was just
associated cost to the implementation of the carryover, employee
cost?
sick leave carryover.
No.
I have some discussion points. I understand the value of attracting and retaining employees, and I greatly appreciate ours. So my discussion points are, presently, our policy allows employees to earn a maximum of 48 hours with unlimited carryover. This is not really a generous policy under Maryland Leave Act. Anyone gets 5 days. So we're offering 6, but we are allowing unlimited carryover. There is no payment of sick time once an employee leaves employment. So if you do the math, if you're employed here for 5 years and you never get sick, you're going to get 240 hours. So how many long-term employees do we have that have been here over 5 years? Does this new policy affect? That's my question.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Doug?
Oh.
So I'll have to get this answer to get you the exact number, but it basically almost covers all our employees. The majority have been here over 5 years.
On page 43 of the employee handbook that I have, in 2019 and 2020, Ocean Pines implemented incentive for good attendance. It rewarded employees who responsibly banked their personal leave with an extra personal day if they only used 16 hours or 2 days of sick time. This proposed new policy seems to conflict with that, and it might have the unintended consequence of a use it or lose it mentality. Take into consideration that employees, when they leave the employ of Ocean Pines, they do not get paid for this sick time. It's just gone. So if they retire, there's no benefit. If they leave and go somewhere else, there's no benefit. So it's not like they get paid for this bank of time. If we keep the present policy in place, it helps retain your long-term, your experienced, your most valuable employees. And I also think it helps attract new employees. In today's business climate, with worker shortages and skilled worker shortages, many businesses are actually increasing their benefits. Ocean Pines seems to be doing the opposite. A couple years ago, our employees had to pay more for their health insurance. If you look at the employee handbook on page 43, if you're an employee that was hired after December 31st, 2018, you get less vacation time. Mr. Viola just pointed out that we have trouble getting public works employees. We should not be doing anything that makes us less attractive to workers. Let's remember our employees are now in demand. We're in a tourist area. There's businesses offering signing bonuses. I'd like to keep our high employee morale the way it is, high. My next question is, have the employees been aware of this potential new policy?
I did discuss, the first time this was brought up by Director Horn, I did discuss it in the staff meeting with them. I went through it with them. They gave me the feedback. I relayed that feedback to Director Horn at that time, yes. As far as a detailed sit-down, I'm not totally sure. I did discuss it with them, but I would say the answer is no as far as a detailed description. But it has been brought up in my staff meetings, and I have discussed it with them. And I've relayed the feedback to Director Horn.
That's correct. There has not been detailed discussion with the employees. Our HR director was involved in the development of this policy as a representative of the employees and also to ensure that what we are doing is within the law. We also did research on the policies of the neighboring communities,
Right.
Worcester County, Berlin, and Ocean City. And this policy is in keeping with the standard for this community for employees of municipalities or governmental organizations. The idea here was to bring our policy in line with what is the standard for the community. And then the second motion that we'll be discussing relates to this in that it formalizes options for employees to bank sick time into a reservoir of time to be used for employees who need to borrow sick time to bridge the gap between an illness and long-term disability. This allows for employees who have an excess of time not to simply lose it, but to be able to gift it to their fellow employees. And so the two motions together, I think, encourage responsible use of our sick and safe leave policies. But we can discuss that second motion after we discuss this one.
And let me add to this.
Chair?
Let me add to this that this has been a process that we've been going through for several years now. Amy, you mentioned that a few years ago, the board looked at the cost of healthcare and what share the employees needed or should share with the association. Everything that we've done here regarding this motion are costs for employees for the healthcare benefit has been researched based on the communities that are similar. There are very few places anymore that pick up the full cost for healthcare coverage, which led Ocean Pines to change that policy. And again, this is another issue that we've looked at, as Director Horn said. We looked at what everyone else is doing, and we're trying to bring ourselves in line with other entities such as Ocean Pines. So the third comment that I wanted to mention is the employees that were having a difficult time getting, we've had a long-running problem hiring hourly workers for public works. And because of COVID the last year and quite honestly, the subsidies, I think, being provided by the government over this last summer, we've had a hard time with some part-time employees. So I don't think this change will impact any of those individuals. Most of those individuals are part-time, and it doesn't apply to them anyway. So I'm in support of this motion. John, did you have some comments?
So I did want to respond and continue. So when this first came up, I did speak to my team, my direct reports, and the number twos. I received feedback. With that, and basically everything that we've done, I've said, okay, we need to benchmark, and Larry kind of touched on it because I updated them. We need to benchmark. We need to understand what exactly everybody around us is doing. I had several volunteers of my number ones and number twos that helped get that information for Director Horn on exactly what the programs were around us for the major municipalities or whatever. And that was given to Director Horn. They worked on that and gave it to her. So that was my understanding, that we were mirroring everything, which is what I've heard. So that's what we did as far as to answer your question there. And then the rest is basically what Larry said.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Larry, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Doug.
So in our board packet, there's a couple of sentences that basically explains the cap of 240 hours and so on and so forth. What would be helpful to me would be, and I agree with the concept, but what I want to see the exact language that's going to go into the employee handbook, because I think it will certainly be very succinct exactly how this is going to be applied. I'd like to know if there's any consideration for developing the language and then giving us a little more time, given the fact that this doesn't have to go in until the next fiscal year. Not that I want to kick it down the road, but as you know, as with other things, we've got a little bit more information, a little more time to digest this, and seeing the exact language that would go into the employee handbook, I think that would be helpful.
Doug, if I could respond to that, the language that was provided with the motion is language that will be inserted into the employee handbook verbatim, but this needs to be incorporated into the entire handbook to make sure there are no conflicts. And so the idea today was to get approval in concept, approval of the policy, and then have the language developed by our director of HR and for her to go through the handbook and make sure there are no conflicts. And then that language would come back to the board for approval.
Yeah, as I understand, and it's not clear that this was the language that was going to go into the handbook, but I would certainly support the concept, but only under the premise that after the concept is approved, that the exact language, because we are a policy approving body, I want to see the policy, the exact language associated with that policy, so we know when it moved from conceptual formulation stage into execution stage, that we know exactly what's going to go in the handbook and exactly what we're approving.
Understood.
Is there any further discussion?
One more point is.
Yeah, Larry,
Yeah, who's that?
Larry,
Yep.
this is Frank.
Oh, Frank.
Oh, Frank.
I also agree with the concept, but I also agree we need to see the exact wording and that conflict resolution taken care of. I think it will help us attract and retain employees. I really don't think it's going to cost us any more money, although I can make a case either way. If you use it or lose it, and then you carry it over to the next year and you're sick, like for example, in 2019, if somebody didn't use their sick leave and they lost it, and in 2020 they had COVID and they used 4 weeks, then you could say it costs more. But I would also argue that that was the right thing to do from an employer-employee perspective in today's market.
Right.
So
Yes.
I definitely agree with the concept, but I think I'd like to also see the exact language.
Yeah, Frank, that's the idea of the sick leave bank. The gifting policy is to provide, a process for addressing those unusual circumstances. The paragraph that I provided to you is language that will go into the employee handbook. As I understand it, our director or our manager of human resources, once these policies are approved, we approved a couple of policies a few months ago. We have these 2 policies that are under consideration, and it's at that time that she will be doing an overhaul of the entire handbook to make sure that all of these policies, that there are no conflicts within the handbook, and that the handbook is presented in a way that's clear and user-friendly. I was loath to require her to do that before we actually approved all the policies and concept, because it's a major undertaking for her to do that.
Any further discussion? Amy?
The sick leave bank idea is a great one, but if you're limiting how many carryover hours an employee can have to 240, they're going to be less likely to donate sick time to people who need it. Let's take into account that this is happening during COVID. We recently had aquatics employees who had to be out for 10 days quarantining. So I'm against the idea.
Yeah, the idea here, Amy, is that we have the majority of our employees are longer-term employees who have accumulated quite a bit of sick time. And they will kind of cap out on this accumulation, and they will have excess hours that they will be able to donate into the sick leave bank. And so the idea is that the 2 policies kind of work hand in hand.
Okay, so you're saying that the long-term employee who has 1,000 hours is going to be able to keep those 1,000 hours, plus have the 240 and can donate those other 1,000 hours to the sick bank
They can donate,
as much as they want to the sick bank.
there are limits to what can be, each employee can donate in a year. But that's the idea, is that each employee can look at their pool of sick leave hours and determine what they would like to donate. And certainly those employees who have more hours than they would likely be able to use would be, I would incentivize to donate those into a sick leave bank. In the past, sick leave has been gifted in an informal way without any, process, consistent process. And so we wanted to correct that issue as well with the second motion that we'll be discussing.
John, when you had your feedback with the employees, was it positive or negative?
So, first of all, excellent question. So the first meeting when I told them about it, there was, I don't want to use the word positive. I don't want to use the word negative. There was passion. There was, they made it clear. I relayed that back to Director Horn and HR. It was my understanding that the adjustments now are pretty much in line and that nobody would lose their built up sick time. So there was passion, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
And we responded to that passion by including in the policy that people would not
Right.
lose sick time that they already had. So if they have 1,000, they could accumulate another 240.
Right.
And so what they already have, they won't lose. But any that goes in excess of the 240, I would think they would be incentivized to donate to a sick leave bank for
Right,
their
and-
fellow employees.
And compliments to the team. A lot of those employees are direct reports that showed me that passion. They worked to get the information to give to Director Horn on to benchmark what was around us.
and again, let me point out that this motion, I believe it was almost a year ago that we brought this up. And the reason it was withdrawn at that time is because we did get feedback from the employees.
Right.
And we went back and took a second look at it. But I want to emphasize that this is what the business world has moved to in the last 10 years. This is nothing new. I think that, what we've been trying to do as a board for the last several years is to try to move us to a more business-like operation. And I think these two motions are moving us again in that direction. Is there any further discussion?
If I may
Is
add to that, in the real world out there, this does line up with it, and I actually agree with most of this. I think this is a lovely idea to line herself up with what's happening in the
Right.
federal world, in the federal government and such.
All right. Any further discussion?
One more comment, Larry.
Yeah.
Just making sure, I want to make very clear that if we move forward and pass this, we're passing the concept of the sick leave cap and subject to the presentation of the actual language that will go in, which will in turn also be voted on as far as approval. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is the case, Doug, because we're going to have to vote to approve all the changes to the employee handbook when they get incorporated, yes.
All right, so it's concept at this point and factual language the next time through, correct?
That's correct.
John, did you have any more comment?
Yeah, so I did, and first of all, Amy, it's very good, and everybody, and Joe, that you brought this up and how you're approaching it. You did mention about several years ago when the board cut the benefits and the medical benefits, and at the time, I don't remember if I was chair of budget and finance, treasurer, or CFO, or some combination of all, but I did caution, and it's on video and everything, the board, that if you're going to cut their benefits, and under the guise that, it's comparable everywhere else, which is true, nobody was getting, basically, other companies were not given 100%, that you had to look at the entire package, which included their salaries. I felt back then, and obviously I was right, when we brought in an outside firm, and by the way, spearheaded by a lot of members of the board now, and especially Colette, where we looked at the salaries. The board approved something that I wanted to do, bringing in an outside firm to review all the salaries. We did have adjustments. The board did approve it. It was in the budget, and we got everybody up salary-wise. When I first came in, there was a big morale issue with that because the board had cut arbitrarily on that. And I believe working with that consultant and what we did to get the salaries up, we're kind of in line, and everything we've done is to benchmark against everybody around us, and that's what they're doing with this also. But again, this is what I'm saying, just like what I mentioned about an amenity. And, you know, when you cut something, there's going to be something somewhere else that has a big effect, and you're really not saving money with that. I believe, and I would like to, in this next budget, you'll see, just like with this DMA Light, is to bring in that outside firm again to do a salary, medical, all benefits review also, a light study, and you'll probably hear me speak about that in the next budget.
Yes, John, and when we had the consultant do the salary study, that was a recommendation that she made as well.
Right.
That we would need to take another look to make sure we're
Right,
staying
and I talked to her about that.
in line.
Yep.
And let me just throw this one additional point out. Again, going back, understanding that this has been a process that we've been working on for years. And one of the items that the Simpson study helped us with, I mean, personally, I can remember sitting at budget meetings over in the old country club and listening to a former general manager saying that, well, we're going to raise the salary by 3%. So we're going to give everybody a 3% raise across the board. And that's not how it's done in the real world. And we changed that. We have since instituted a performance appraisal system. While the general manager gets a percentage increase on the budget, it's up to him to determine, you know, somebody may get 3%, somebody may get 2%, somebody may get 5% within that budget. So that's another item that has changed to try to bring Ocean Pines into a more effective business climate. So just wanted to, you know, that's, again, another thing that has occurred over time here with Ocean Pines. And I see this as another step getting to that. So is there any further comment?
I would like just to, for the record, bravo to you for the job well done within our community. I mean, the numbers are beautiful. Great job. Everybody should be proud of the job that our general manager's doing. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Josette. Team effort.
So seeing no further comments, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
That's me.
Okay. And any abstentions? The motion passes. All right, Colette, your second motion?
The second motion is to approve a policy providing for employees to gift sick and safe leave time to coworkers in need to go into effect on May 1st, 2022, which is the beginning of our plan year. Purpose and effect is to provide for the gifting of sick and safe leave to employees in need of bridging their accrued sick and safe leave when transitioning to long-term disability.
Is there a second to the motion? I'll second it. Discussion?
I'll just comment that again, this also was benchmarked against the communities around us, and it is very much closely aligned with the policy that Worcester County has for a similar program, gifting of sick and safe leave. And it's believed that it reflects the community standard in this regard as well.
Is there any further discussion, Doug or Frank?
Yeah, I have a question. So, in reading the narrative here, you know, the employees are encouraged to join us. And by the way, let me start out with, I support the concept of sharing sick leave with others. And the companies I've been involved in, we've done that in the past, and it seems to have worked out quite well. So the employees are encouraged, but they're not required. Okay, so I think that's an important thing. And clearly, but if you sign up for it, you're obviously required to donate hours to the bank. My question is for John, and John, if you don't have this information, that's fine. But did you get a sentiment of of the staff that they were encouraged with this, that they supported this, or they would say, hey, guess what? The fact that I got to give up my sick time, in order to join this, might not be conducive to me. Did you get any sense that the staff was receptive of the idea of contributing to the bank as the overall process?
So Doug, and it's a good question. Actually, I was just talking to two of our key employees with this. So some of the feedback and what I had received before was this was way better than what was first proposed. Some are fine with it. Some are, they're okay. They know they don't lose what they had in the past, and that was my understanding. Quite honestly, I would be more comfortable if I sat down and spoke to all of them. My opinion or impression was that, they were okay with it, but it's like anything else. I mean, I'd have to, for these type of questions in here, I'd want to sit down with all of them and get exactly. But I got to be honest with you, I thought that they were okay. I mean, we do have two here if they want to. That's not going to go over well tomorrow in my office, I can tell you that, on Monday.
That would be out of order,
I
too,
mean,
John.
what do you want me to say? I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, I guess I'm very comfortable saying they are way more comfortable than what they heard the first time. Can I at least get a nod on that? Yeah, so. Yeah, Linda wants to jump in.
No,
Thank you,
John,
Linda.
John, that's not, no, it's out of order.
All right, out of order, sorry. But I mean, what do you want me to do?
Doug, would you, or Frank, I guess that was, who raised this issue, are you going to be more comfortable with supporting this if John has the opportunity to actually get that input from the department heads and the employees? Or are you ready to vote on this today?
Well, from my standpoint, I'm ready to vote on it. I think it's, again, like Larry said, 3 years ago we had, if you've come from private industry or came from private industry, a mess. And we've gradually taken that mess and we've moved it to a contemporary, competitive, business-like model where we're not giving away the store, but where we're not penalizing ourselves in terms of being able to recruit employees. And I think this is another step toward filling out that competitive business-like model of what we see when we go out and try to get talent and we're competing with other Eastern Shore companies. So I'm all for it. Again, we're going to look at the specific language in the handbook when the handbook's revised, but at this point in time, I'm comfortable moving forward.
I had one question about the language. On the motion, it says, when transitioning to long-term disability. So my question is they can only use the sick leave bank if they are going to go on long-term disability, or can they use the sick leave bank just because they were in a car accident?
If they get to the point at which long-term disability is required because of the term of their absence, this would bridge the gap. And, we have to follow the federal law regarding long-term disability. Larry, can you speak to that? I think this is an area you're more knowledgeable.
Yeah, as you may or may, well, you probably know, we have short-term disability, long-term disability, and then in addition to that, the federal government has specific requirements. And after 6 months, if I remember correctly, which is what happened recently, the FMLA statutes kick in, that's Family Medical Leave Act, and if an employee, it sort of impacts employees who may have a problem that is year after year after year, or it comes and goes, and they use up their sick time. In order for them to get to the long-term disability, if they don't have enough, if they don't have the short-term coverage, and they don't have enough time to bridge themselves to that 6-month period, then the idea is for this to be able to use this sick bank. So it's not just to give away time for somebody who, constantly takes time off for, the Monday morning flu.
Right.
It's for serious issues. And again, we tried to find a way where we can help the employees bridge that gap in that time period where they may not have enough sick time coverage to get them, to get to the point where they get on full-term or long-term disability. Long-term disability doesn't kick in until 6 months. And so that's really what we're trying to do. This is not meant to be for, like I said, for people who have the Monday morning flu and they ran out of sick time because they take every Monday off.
And if you look at point number 6 in the policy, it talks about a sick leave bank committee where the general manager, the HR manager, and the applicant's department head are working together with that employee to, evaluate their need for this and to make sure that it's, everything is done properly and providing for their needs within the limits of state and federal law.
Was there any thought of providing language that spells out what is considered? Is a car accident considered? Bed rest considered?
Well, it's really pretty much anything but the exclusion.
Okay.
Are there any further discussions? Frank or Doug, anything further?
No, not for me.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All right, and any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
The last item on the agenda is the appointments. So I'll read through the appointments and then we can vote at one time, as we normally do. So we have Jim Trummel, third term, bylaws and resolutions. Robert Hillegass, third term, bylaws and resolution. Stephen Jacobs, first term, bylaws and resolution. Steve Habeger, temporary extension elections. Mark Heintz, temporary extension elections committee. John Latham, first term, marine. Sharon Santacroce, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Second term, environmental and natural assets. Debbie Bennington, 1-year extension on communications. Gary Miller, aquatics, first term. Robert Molden, golf, first term. And David Allen as chairman of the Marines Advisory Committee. Is there a motion to approve the appointments as read?
So moved.
And a second?
I do.
Second by Josette. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the motion passes, and the appointments are in place. I have a motion to.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, one quick point of order. You were going in and out of there. Was Dave Allen as chair of the Marine Activities Committee also in that list?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
All right, is there, seeing no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.